Before school, every morning at 8:30, school begins with a Socratic discussion that we call a launch. And the target outcome for launch is critical thinking and cross-cultural awareness. A launch begins by a guide telling an interesting story and posing a question that has no clear right or wrong answer. And then we open up the floor and learners debate. They share their opinion, they build off one another, sometimes they change their mind, but it's meant to promote critical thinking, and it's also meant to promote cross-cultural awareness in the sense that they're able to put themselves in the shoes of a protagonist and imagine what life would be like and take on a certain argument, take on a certain role. They last 15 minutes, and no longer. They end after that, and usually the discussion is very lively.
So launches typically start off with a story, an inspiring story that really hooks them. And then from there, we ask 3 to 5 questions, this or that questions, where they have to make a decision, something that gets their brain going and thinking early in the morning. And then we end with an inspiring message that takes them into their day, something that they feel they can take and actually do and use throughout the day and throughout the week.
These are 15-minute launches, Socratic discussions that go over really anything. They could be moral dilemmas, or they could be real-life topics that we're going through right now in the world, or they could be something that's happened in the past or something that might happen in the future. It's really anything that you want to talk about and you just discuss, and you have questions or a story or a video, and you show it to your audience, and then you guys discuss it.
The guide can lead it or the heroes can lead it. We can discuss an issue that's going on in the studio or just dilemmas in the world.
Not only do learners engage in and participate in launches, they actually lead them. They learn how to lead the launches themselves. They lead launches with one another. They lead launches in other studios. And so they themselves get practice at telling an incredible story, crafting a question that has no clear right or wrong answer, and then facilitating an engaging discussion.
For guides, I would think it is really important for you to plan those launches and to think through your questions. So it could be a 30-minute time for you to sit down and actually plan what you're going to talk about. Maybe you want to show a video that shows a kid in an environment or something like that, so they are not scared off or afraid of what's going on. You don't want to scare them, and you want to be kid-friendly language. You want to use kid-friendly language for them to understand it as well, but it could be big, huge topics that we're talking about.
A guide needs to keep in mind, what's the compelling story? What is the question that is open-ended, that has no clear right or wrong answer? The guide also can consider, in the middle of the launch, throwing in a wrench question that kind of complexifies it a little bit. Maybe that adds a detail that makes the discussion a little bit more complex. The guide needs to keep in mind they should only talk for about 3 to 4 minutes of the 15, and that there should be no declarative statements like yes or no, sort of questions or statements, but it's more open-ended and that allows for great conversation and debate.
I believe a successful launch would be one where the group is divided on their conclusion or their answer to the questions that we're posing to them as guides. So one half of the group is kind of on one side of the equation, the other half is on the other side of the equation, and there is a debate. And some of the learners may, by the time the launch is over, may have even changed what they think because of how they heard someone think about something, another learner think about a question.
I like that no one's judging you for what you're speaking, for speaking your mind, at least most of the time. It's kind of like everyone's free to state their own opinion.
Some heroes will talk about their religion or where they came from, and then we can kind of learn about that. And then sometimes during the moral dilemmas, we'll talk about stuff on the news sometimes, and sometimes we'll have different races or genders.
So I think parents need to have an open mind when it comes to Socratic discussions, because we do talk about a lot of culture, we talk about a lot of current events, but ask them questions. What did they talk about today? What y'all doing your Socratic launch this morning? How did you feel about that? Because I think that's a lot of what parents can do, is to comfort and to make sure they feel safe as well. So discussions we're having at school kind of carry them on into the home.
Parents need to know that their young people are going to get practice navigating uncertainty, debating, and that could have an impact at home. I think learners who participate in launches are going to be less open over time to simple answers, to black or white conclusions. They're going to be more interested in nuance, and they're going to feel more confident in voicing their own opinion. And that can look and feel different in the home. And so I think parents need to be ready for that.
It helps us think outside of the box, because when we're thinking outside of the box, it sets us apart from everybody else. So we kind of stand out and have different answers, especially when you're applying for a college. You stand out when you have different answers.
It kind of tunes your brain up a little bit, makes you think outside of the box. We tell a story for about 5 minutes and then pose some questions and let them have a discussion about it. And it's really interesting to see what they think, and it allows heroes to hear different perspectives and maybe change their mind and opinions on some things that they have.